Hello everybody. Welcome to our last student webinar on chart delineation. I see we've got several people here. Great. Okay. This one we have no guest presenters. It's just going to be Eva and I this last time. I will have an attachment, the slides available. What I've done is I've consolidated all of the teaching that we've had for this entire series and put that in the slides that will be attached to this last one. As usual, any follow-up questions we have will be posted to the Student Union, and that's where the link will be. Although it's the same link it's always been, there on Makara. The new considerations that we're going to talk about today are configurations, which are basically 3 or more planets that form patterns in your chart. They can be either major configurations or minor configurations. Like a minor configuration might be a yod that you can add the minor ones together and they form the bigger ones. The bigger ones are the ones that we're going to be talking about mainly today. The crosses, the T-squares, and the grand trines. We're also going to talk about transits. That's where planets are on any given day. You know, our natal chart is a snapshot of where the planets were on the day we were born, but they continue to move. And so the transits show us where they are today. And what we want to do is we want to consider that in relation to how they bump up against the things that are within our natal chart. That's our point of contact with them. We also want to consider the normal cyclic motion of the planets. You know, the real good example that we have is the full moons, or the phases of the moons. You know, the first quarter, the full moon, the third quarter. Well, every single planet does that. And so we can look at the relationship of the planet within our own natal chart and what it's doing. Some of them are quick, like the cycles of the sun and the moon and the inner planets, and some of them we'll only see a couple of the phases in our lifetime because they take so long to move around. We're going to talk about progressions. And basically that takes our natal planets and it shows a specific relationship of their movement in time. It differs from the transiting movement, and it somehow connotes a progress, which is why they're called progressions. Thinking hopefully that we're older and wiser and a little better at using that energy as we age. Okay, so let me start off with major configurations. We have to look at individual planets. You know, it's in the sign, it's in the house, who its rulers are. You know, we have to find out all about that little planet. But then we also want to see what else is happening. Are the aspects that it makes friendly in nature, or are they adversarial? What signs and houses are involved with the contacts that it makes? How are we expressing that energy? Are we working at the higher soul type expression of it, or the lower personality type expression of it, or a little bit of both, which I think is probably more common for most of us. And can we see how they work together in our chart? Not only 2 different planets working together or 3 different planets working together, but the higher and lower expressions. You know, on our good days or our bad days, do they work well or do they fight each other? So that's what I see when I look at these configurations, is how it all fits together. The bottom line is no planet actually stands alone within our chart. So looking at a solitary planet is like taking a child who comes from this big, large family and looking at them in isolation. Yes, they are that little child, and yes, they are the child of those parents, but they're also an important part of this larger family. Are they the younger child, the older child, the middle child? How many cousins do they have? All kinds of family dynamics that are going to influence what else is going on. And that's what I encourage you to look at the planets in your chart as parts of the big family. So these relationships that these planets have are what we call aspects. And the aspects, they tell us the nature of the relationship. Depends on the signs, it depends on their rulers and their houses as to what that relationship is going to be. Astrologically, we use the term harmonics. And that's pretty much what it is. Think of a song, think of a melody. Some things work well together in harmony, and other things they don't so well. And that's what's happening with these aspects, with these relationships. And that's why we explore all the different things that are going on. I'm going to tell you now, I've recommended this book before. It's a big hummer. Make a great doorstop. Marcia Moore and Mark Douglas wrote this extensive book that's called Astrology, the Divine Science. It's a very thorough book. I recommend it for beginners because it's very good for beginners. And it has all kinds of, Astrology 101 type things in it. It does show some esoteric influences. And it's got this wonderful table that's just a one-page thing with very succinct descriptions for planetary aspects. One word for two planets working together. And I think that's pretty good. I can boil it down to one page, but they did it to one word. Okay, when I'm talking about aspects, and for this webinar, we're only going to go into the primary aspects. Conjunction, they're right there together. They're 0 degrees apart. And conjunction we sometimes take this loosely to mean like the whole sign, or right there together. They can be in different signs, but still, 2 or 3 degrees apart. But what a conjunction is a combined power. So you have to look at the combined planets, what the two planets represent as to how well they combine their power. Some planets work well together, and others, they need a little work to work together. Even if they're in the same sign, in the same house, they have different energies themselves, each one of them. Again, think of siblings and sibling rivalry. The square, that's going to be a challenge. Those are 90 degrees apart in a chart. And those are the things that bring us all the lessons that we learn via the School of Hard Knocks. They usually come to us through these squares. It's a challenge. It can be an opportunity, but we have to learn to use that energy wisely, learn the lesson that we're supposed to be learning. Trines, those are a benefit. They're 120 degrees apart. Let me back up a minute. Squares, 90 degrees apart. Those are going to be the same mode, okay? So there's going to be 4 of those, and it's going to be either the 4 cardinal signs or the 4 fixed signs or the 4 mutable signs. With trines, they're 120 degrees apart. That's a benefit. And there's 3 of those in the wheel. So those are going to be the elements. You're going to have the the 3 fire signs or the 3 water signs or whatever. Okay, now the trines, it is a benefit. It's something that we've worked with before and we've learned to work well with between these planets and these signs, but it's one of those things that we take for granted. And it's only a benefit if we actively use it. And these squares, the swift kick in the behind that motivate us to do something because they're aggravating, this benefit, use these trines, use your trines in your chart as the benefit to help you work through the squares. That's the moral to that story. The oppositions, that they're 180 degrees apart, that's an awareness. Esoterically, we look at an axis as not a teeter-totter, not a tug-of-war, but the balance that can be achieved between the two of them, working at neither extreme, but working from the balance at the center. So that can be looked at as, depending on where you are and what type of energy you're experiencing right now, it can be either a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, we have a question here. Hold on just one second. Name of the author of that book again. Okay, it's Marcia Moore and Mark Douglas. And one of the last slides is going to have the recommended reading list, and it's got that in there. Okay, so these are the primary aspects that we're going to talk about, and there's going to be 3 major configurations that we're going to talk about. Let me back up here a minute. I skipped over something. These are the true angle. 0 degrees apart, 90 degrees apart, 120 degrees apart, and 180. Conjunctions, we usually use fairly wide orbs. The distance from the true aspect, 6 to 7 degrees up to 10 degrees for the ascendant, the sun, and the moon, which we call the luminaries. Squares, trines, and oppositions, not quite that wide, but still 5 to 6 degrees is normal, and it can be extended where another planet is acting as a translator of light to bring the planet in together. Here, let me give you an example of that. It's when one planet is separating but still within aspect, and it's applying to a third planet, and it forms like this little chain that passes the influence of the first planet onto the third planet. So let's say that Mars might be at 18 degrees Aries, and Venus might be at 24 degrees Leo, and Jupiter at 20 degrees Sagittarius. So Mars and Jupiter are in acceptable aspect, but Venus is separating from an outside acceptable aspect with Mars, but it is in acceptable aspect with Jupiter. So Jupiter, who's in acceptable aspect to both of them, he's serving as that translator of light between Mars and Venus to keep that grand fire trine in effect, even though the Mars-Venus is a little bit wide. So there's exceptions to every rule, and that's kind of how we play with it a little bit. The configuration and the aspect is going to be stronger and more true the more precise it is, the closer to this angle that it is. But we can sometimes learn more from the imperfect configurations that is less precise, because that's where the rubbing is going to be. That's where it pinpoints to us the area by sign, by planet, and house where we are slightly off kilter. In this particular case, we're talking about the relationship between Venus and Mars. Okay? And what brings them together? Jupiter. So, that's the way we play with this. Now, let's look at the 3 configurations. The Grand Cross, or you can call it a Grand Square. You can see we get the cross from this. A to B are opposites. C to D are opposites. And they form this 90-degree angle. in the chart, okay, that is the square. Exoterically, it tends to bring conflicting energies to awareness through the oppositions, conflicting through awareness. And then the motivation is through the stress of the squares to resolve the issue that is presented by these planets, signs, and houses involved. Okay? Esoterically, the goal is to balance both axes. Again, find the balance between the two axes here. And find your way to the center of the cross so you can wield all four energies in synergy with the soul controlling the hub. Remember how I said earlier, not to any of the extremes? Then you no longer regard this energy as opposites or squares, but as the integrated activity of the combined shared energy of the mode of activity. In other words, the cardinal signs working together, the fixed signs working together, or the mutable signs working together. So that's the Grand Cross. You guys have heard a lot about the T-square over this series. That basically means that 3 of the 4 points are there for the Grand Cross and 1 is missing. So instead of continuously having all 4 points represented and learning from a baby to work with that particular energy, 1 point is missing. And you're going to get that in fits and starts several times a month, several times a year, as planets transit around there. The 3 points work together as best they can. You've got the one axis and then the square. And this part here is just kind of, that void until a transiting planet wanders through that missing area and it activates your Grand Cross. Because you're normally not used to the impact of the full cross, it's probably going to be a little challenging there at that weak area until you can learn to effectively use that cross. But you're given plenty of opportunity, aren't you? The moon transits the entire chart every month. So once a month, the moon, for just a couple of hours, is going to hit that. Ping it. Say, woohoo, remember I'm here. The sun and the inner planets, they're going to transit one sign a month, the whole chart once a year. So once a year, it's going to be the same time for you every year that the sun hits that missing point if you have a T-square. Mars is in a sign about 2 months and it comes around about every 2 years. Jupiter's in a sign about 1 year and so it's going to come around every 12 years. Saturn is in a sign about 2.5 years and it's going to come around every 29, 30 years or so. But it's going to stay there for a year because it does that little tap dance thing. So, and the further out you go, the longer they're going to stay there. When you're lucky enough to get a transit to that. Okay, and the other configuration we're going to talk about is the Grand Trine. And this is 3 signs of an element, and all of them are represented in your chart, and they're all in relation to, A is trine B, B is trine C, C is trine A. So they're all working there together. Compatibility, understanding, creativity. But again, we take them for granted. So we need those squares to get us motivated, aggravate us enough to where we do something. Okay. So I sent all of you who presented your charts, I sent you a snapshot of what your configurations were, the crosses, the T-squares, and the grand trines. And then I also sent you the transits and progressions so that you could kind of follow along in your own chart as Eva and I go through and describe what's going on. Because life does continue. The planets are still moving out there. And so they're going to be pinging our chart in various different ways. I touched on it briefly before, but there are tons of cycles that are all swirling around us all of the time. Some of them we notice outwardly, like the cycles of day and night, the moon cycles, even the 4 seasons. Some are personal to our own little microcosm, like our birthdays or anniversaries. The birthdays, what we refer to in astrology is the solar return. And that's what I gave you your charts for, was for your solar return for 2015. Others of these cycles are transpersonal, like the cycling in and out of the 7 rays, or the age of Aquarius, or even the outer planets, because those cycles, they affect generations on a whole. But they still all affect us in their own way, whether we realize it or not, and whether it's an impact that's felt by humanity as a whole, or that personal infusion or disruption of energy in our own little natal microcosm. These cycles can overlap with other cycles and form synergistic patterns of energy. A good example of that is the Jupiter and Saturn cycle. They combine in a 20-year cycle that goes from conjunction to conjunction. Jupiter is that pushing outward, that expansion, and Saturn is the restriction and the reining in. They both work well together. I always like to think of them as breathing out and breathing in. They can be mini cycles that form a larger picture, like the mini cycles of Venus that combine. And there's a lovely flower pattern that she makes if you trace it over many years. Really pretty. Or the age of Aquarius, which is just a small part of the sun's apparent path around the greater zodiac that takes like 25,000 years, and there's a bigger one that takes 250,000 years, and the age is just 2,500, 2,000 and a half years, or whatever. Many of these cycles impact only on the inner planes, consciously or unconsciously. For example, retrograde and planetary cycles affect each of us in individual ways because they happen in different signs and houses, depending on our own natal chart. These can be opportunities for growth or change, or may seem to be major crises for us. But it's all this natural rhythm of life. We have phases: childhood, teenage, young adult, midlife, old age. And those can be observed astrologically, just like the phases of the moon that we're familiar with. The movement of these planets around our natal chart aids us at each of these particular phases. That's why we look at the transits. That's why we look at the progressions. What slide am I on? Okay, so those transits, they are global in nature. That's what's happening in the sky tonight. That's what's happening in the life of somebody born today. As I mentioned earlier, the moon goes through all 12 signs every month. Sun and Earth move quickly. Jupiter goes around in 12 years. But it's only important to us in relation to what they're doing to our natal chart. How are they pinging things in our natal chart? I'm going to use my own chart as an example. I have a mutable T-square. My ascendant is at 22 Gemini. My Mars is at 25 Sagittarius. And both of those are squared by my Venus at 24 Virgo. So any transit to 22 to 25 degrees of any mutable sign is going to stimulate that T-square that I have. And any transit to 22 to 25 Pisces is actually going to complete my cross. I also have a cardinal T-square. I have my Mercury-Uranus twins sitting at 24 Cancer. I've got Chiron at 24 Capricorn and Neptune at 23 Libra. So any planets that transit 23 to 24 cardinal signs, they're going to ping that little T-square. And any transits to 23 to 24 Aries, they're going to complete that cross for me. Do you see a theme here? I've got all these natal planets at 22 to 24 degrees, so something is always going on at those degrees. Because, here I'm just talking about the cross and the grand trine, but there's all kinds of other aspects going on. There's the sextiles and the trines and the inconjuncts. Let me see. Here's some more on the transits that we've got. A lot of them have relatively normal orbits. I'm here to tell you, nothing has a normal orbit. They're not perfect circles out there. They all have little wobbles and little inconsistencies in them. But Saturn's orbit is fairly predictable at about 29.5 years. Uranus' orbit is fairly predictable at about 84 years. And Neptune's is fairly predictable at about 64 to 65 years. So what that means is every 7 years, Saturn is going to do something to his natal position. Again, think of the moons. At age 7, he's going to square. It's going to be that first quarter moon squaring his natal position. At about 14 years, it's going to be a Saturn opposition. At about 21 years, it's going to be that third quarter square. And at about 29.5 years, it's going to come in for that Saturn return. Same thing happens with all of these. Uranus milestones, that first quarter square is going to be about age 21. The opposition about age 42. The third quarter square at about 63 as it comes in at 84 for the Uranus return. Neptune milestones, that first quarter square at about 42, the opposition at about 84. Are you seeing any similarities here? There was one up here too. Okay, other planets have highly elliptical orbits, so their phases are going to differ widely. Chiron makes it around in 50 years, but he's in Libra for 1.5 years and in Aries for 7 years. Pluto, 248 years to make it around. He's in Taurus about 31 years and Scorpio only 12. So you're going to see widely varying things there. Let's see. Someone born in 1875 with Pluto in Taurus, they're going to hit, they did hit the first quarter square at roughly 80 years. But Pluto is not going to reach the opposition in Scorpio, or didn't for them, until 120 years later. So not in their lifetime. Someone born in 1950 with Pluto in Leo will hit that first quarter square at roughly 40 years and the opposition about 84 years. Someone born in 1990 with Pluto in Scorpio is going to hit that first quarter square at about 43 years, but the opposition won't be reached until 122 years. So again, not in their lifetime. So the moral to this story is that people with Pluto in Cancer, Leo, or Virgo or the final degrees of Gemini, or the beginning degrees of Libra, we're the lucky ones. We're not only going to get that Pluto square, natal Pluto, but we'll probably live long enough to see Pluto opposing Pluto in our natal charts. Now, won't that be special? Actually, I presented this at the conference this year and last year, and there was a gentleman there who told me that it was actually a very great time for him. He was 84 years old. I think he was actually 86 years old, and he had all of those planets that converge at 84, and he said it was a great time for him. Major breakthroughs. Okay, so I can sit here and talk to you till I'm blue in the face and throw all these stats out and everything, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean a hill of beans if I don't show you pictures, right? So here, the green is my little mutable cross, my ascendant, or my T-square, my ascendant there, my descendant, and my natal Mars right there, and Neptune squaring them, and the missing point is off over here, 23 to 24 degrees Aries. When I want to get brave and what's the word I want? I can toss this in there and say, hey, that's in there. That completes the cross, but it's really a little wide. And then oops, I mixed my apples and oranges. The ascendant, Mars and the descendant, and Venus. And it's up here in Pisces is the missing point. This is my cardinal. The Bobbsey twins here. Mercury smack on top of Uranus, or the other way around. Opposite Chiron, and that's where Neptune plays. So here's the missing point over here with that one. So here's my transits that we've got going on. Transiting, this, by the way, is 26 December 04 was when this transit happened. I picked this date because I basically started a new life at this time. This is the day that I left home for a new assignment. I had recently been through a series of rapid promotions, which look what we got here. Uranus on my midheaven, which exoterically is my career. So big meteoric changes in my career. And it had been there for several years. And I received specialized training, and that resulted in me being selected for yet another promotion, and that moved me and my family from Arizona to Florida. It actually shows up here as transiting Mars on this day, transiting Mars, squaring my midheaven here. And this actually forms a little T-square because this is my nadir and my midheaven, my home and my career. And here's a little old Mars, 1 day at a time, 2 days at a time. Actually, I think he's here for a week, hitting these, and he's affecting both my home and my career. What happened was my husband owned a business in Arizona, and so he had to stay behind there, and it took him 18 months to sell his business and join me in Florida. But we wanted to come to Florida. His dad is 95 and counting, so we wanted to be here on the East Coast near him. So, little Mars, just a little ping here, whoop, and that helped set, and this big ping here helped set things in motion. What else do we have going on here? Transiting Pluto is here at my descendant, so it's stimulating my mutable cross right here in my 7th house, where all these big changes are going in the relationship that I'm having as I'm moving the family for the first time in the career of me being the military dependent, following my husband everywhere. Now it's his turn to follow me around. T Saturn, as we saw right here, transiting Saturn, is opposite transiting Chiron, both of them sitting right there on that cardinal cross of mine, or cardinal T-square of mine, sorry. Major changes in my personal resources. Second house, the 8th house. Saturn, structure, opportunity. Chiron, adjustments and changes. Uranus, changes, electrification. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on here, stimulating a variety of things. Oh, by the way, look at the little Pluto cycle we've got. Here is transiting Pluto, and here's my natal Pluto, and what are they doing? They're trining each other. Favorable aspect. Helping me out as it bumps up against my mutable T-square there. So, we see this is the time of my Chiron return. 50 years old, Chiron just passed over himself. He's going to turn around and come retrograde again and hover there for a little bit, but that's my Chiron return. So that's the Chiron cycle. We saw that Pluto is getting involved in, Pluto, transiting Pluto to natal Pluto aspect. We see double Chiron then, transiting and natal. We see double Mars because we've got Mars right here and Mars right here, both of them in Sag. And we see double Uranus, this time in different signs because we've got the transiting Uranus and we've got the natal Uranus all playing. And while everything I have just described for you was exoteric and outer events in my life, it profoundly impacted my inner life. It freed up from me a lot of time to immerse myself in the Alice Bailey books and to set me up financially so that I could then retire early and devote more time to my service activities. So this had impact in both regards for me. So that's the way I look at natal configurations, and that's the way I look at transits. I'm now going to turn this over to Eva, and she's going to talk to you about progressions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. And BL, could you make me presenter, if you don't mind?
Sure.
While I talk. So we're going to look at progressions, and there are basically two types of progressions. Our natal chart is always our footprint. It never changes. Whoops. Show my screen. Yes, show my screen. No, but I want you to I wanted to show your screen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but then I have to be the presenter if you want it to show my screen.
Uh-huh. Okay, so show your screen, because I don't have that up, but I want to be able to, at one point I'd like to be able to be presenter, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so just change that around while I'm talking. So basically, the natal chart is the fixed imprint, and it's almost like your footprint. And while it's the most important chart for you, in the meantime, planets continue to move. And so we have to then see where our sun is in relationship to a certain time of the year. And that's why we call these progressions, because all the planets keep moving. So basically there are two kinds. One is called a secondary progression, and the other is called a solar arc directed progression. So the secondary progression is based on the movement of the planets. So naturally, the slower planets are barely going to move. They're moving so slowly. The inner planets are going to move faster. So they're going to move much, much faster. That's all we need to know for the moment. The solar arc-directed planets move according to 1 degree for every year of life. It is said that a day in our life is equivalent to a year in the life of our Lord. So it moves 1 degree every year. So you can almost take the entire thing and keep shifting it, shifting it, shifting it, and everything will stay exactly where it was, but it'll shift by 1 degree. Now, for both progressions, the sun stays exactly the same. And the sun moves 30 degrees at a time. Or, in other words, there are 30 degrees for each sign, right? So if my sun was to be at 10 degrees, it would only leave it 20 more years, because it's a degree per year, and then it would shift to the next sign, and then it would be in the next sign. So the sun stays roughly 30 years in one sign. So at the age of 30, all the planets will have moved ahead. At the age of 60, all the planets would have moved ahead by 2 signs. That's provided we start with 0. But no person has their sun at 0 if we're looking at the sun only. So the assumption with that is that we learn and grow as we age. And so we begin to work with the energy of the progress signs. None of this stands alone. They all have to be related to the natal sign or the natal chart, because the energy of the natal chart is the most important thing. And all this does is add another dimension to our understanding of ourselves. So as we know that our natal chart shows our time of birth and what energies that we needed at that time. So as we age and evolve, we get hints through our progressions, and we'll look at that in a moment. So always we have to ask ourselves, are we working from a personality's place? Are we working from a soul level? I want to move to the next sign, and I can't seem to do that.
You want me to move it to the next slide?
Yes, please. I don't know why it's not behaving for me. So,
because I'm the presenter.
You're the presenter. Okay. I didn't really want to talk about that. Do you want to go down to the number 22, please? There we go. So I don't know how well you guys can see the degrees here, but right now, if you look at my sun sign, I was born with it at 19 degrees of Libra. So for another 11 years, I stayed as a Libra sun, right? And if you add the 11 years to 19, you get 30. So then my sun moved to the next sign, which is Scorpio. So for 30 years, I lived as an added sun sign of Scorpio. So at the age of 11 and 30, which made it 41, my sun moved to Sagittarius. And it has been in Sagittarius since I was 41. So now it shows here at the event is October 12th, which was my birth date, 2007. It's not the exact time now, but in 2007, my progressed sun was at 21 degrees of Sagittarius. So in fact, that should always give one's age. So if we look at 11, I had 11 left when it was at Libra, plus 30 for the Scorpio sun makes it 41. And if I add the 21, at that point, I would have been 62 years of age. Have I done it correctly? Yeah, 21 and 41 would have made it 62 years of age is when my sun was in Sagittarius. If I look at today's transit, my sun, my progressed sun is at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, so it's continued to move. I have one more year left, if I was to look at today's progressions, of my sun in Sagittarius, which is a critical time, because then it'll shift to the next sign, and it'll be in Capricorn. And so I'll take on the flavor of Capricorn. So when the sun progresses and changes signs, it all depends on how long we live, but approximately it'll change 3 times in our entire lifespan. In other words, it's never going to go up to here, because I won't live that long, because you have to keep adding 30 and 30 and 30. So roughly 3, and this might, for me, it might go to the next one, as I said, in a year's time, because my sun was not, my sun degree was 19 degrees, so it was 2/3 of the way through Libra. If it was at 0, I'd be lucky to get a full 3 different signs. So the period when the progressed sun is very late in a sign and is about to change to a new sign, like I said, now it's at 29 degrees, is a very critical time, and many changes can occur. When that sun changes signs, there's usually a very clear change in a person's general orientation or responses to one's environment. So when I started off as a sun in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is oftentimes the teacher, and it's in the 6th house, the house of my work and my service. I have been teaching, really, for the last, I don't know, 25, 30 years. So I have been teaching for a long, long time. And I have a lot of helpers along the way that have also moved into Sagittarius. So you can see how I took on that flavor, but I never lost the Libra sun that I am. So I add the dimension of the progression onto my Libra sun. And a lot of my Libra helpers moved into Sagittarius. Actually, they had moved into Scorpio for 30 years, but then they moved into Sagittarius. I hope you're all following this. I'm trying to keep it very, very clear. So, so lots of life events are possible during that shift when it changes signs. And many people move during that time, or they'll change their job, or it's a whole new field of expression. So for me, it'll probably move my sun into that 7th house, which is the house of relationships. So for me, it'll be a very interesting thing to look at. What are my relationships now like compared to what they were before? So it's out with the old and in with the new. And that's how each one of us should look at our progressions, how they are, in what sign they're in, and where they are, and what house, what area that they're in. So these are things to always look at the progressed sun. Now we will find when we do look at the solar arc progression that the sun is the only thing that always is constant. So if my sun at 2007 here was 21 degrees, and we move into the solar arc progression, you're going in there for me? Thank you so much. My sun is also 21 degrees. I got a lot of other helpers here that have moved, but the sun never is different in the two systems. Okay, so that's one thing to look at. I want to go back to the first chart of mine, and we're going to talk about the progressed moon. So the progressed moon moves roughly 1 degree a month. So it stays in a sign for roughly 2.5 months, or 30, what is it, 30 degrees. But the moon, as we know, moves very quickly. So 2.5 months it stays into one sign. Now, the progressed moon moves through the entire wheel, like the entire wheel. It takes 27 to 28 years for you to get a lunar return, as they say. The house that it is moving through represents areas of our life that come into focus. We recognize our needs. Moon is about our needs, as well as about our emotions. and about the intensity of our needs, because emotions can be intense, in what area that they fall into. And sometimes these needs and these emotions are not very clear. For example, if my progress moon moved through the 4th house, if it was moving through the 4th house, often it would bring with it the strong need to search for roots or for basic life definitions. So our emotional needs seem to change or shift when it changes signs. So I would encourage all of us to see what degree is the progress moon for you. Now, if we look at this one, my progress moon at that date of 2007 was in Aries, and it had been there for 8 months, right? Because it's 8 degrees. So I had another it's 30 months, so another 22 months for it to be there, and then it would shift to a different sign. So it's a good thing to always see where it is and what degree it is. Now, if we go to the solar arc one, which is the next slide, BL, thank you for being so good with this. If we look at where the moon was on that same date, according to solar arc, it was at 3 degrees of Pisces. So it's totally different than it was with the progressed moon with that particular system. So you have to really look at both of them to see. So for 3 months here, I had my moon in Pisces, which was pinging, as to use BL's word, my MC at the time. Okay, so that's those two things, sun and moon, are the very important areas to look at in progressions, and what houses, what field that they are in. For example, this shows up in the 10th house, the house of my career, the house of my Dharma. 10th house. This showed up in the 6th house, the house of my teaching. So we can see how I had maybe greater sensitivity to what I was working on and what I was teaching. Okay, so that gives you a clear idea of how to look at progressions. Now, I don't really want to go into, you'll have this on your slides, what it means when the progressed, like we have these slides, what it means to have our Uranus progressed, or the outer planets progressed, or the inner planets progressed. So you have all of that in your notes. And it basically, you take the energy of the sign and you know what those energies are. So if you have Saturn, and Saturn, it has progressed, you look at the sign that it's in, you look at the relationship that it creates with the rest of the chart. So right here, there's very little that I would want to say, except that the moon here, maybe BL, you can talk to some of these things. You're so good at these configurations, much better than me. The moon definitely affected my MC.
Yeah, with your, let me see let's go back a minute to the progressions.
Yes.
Okay, so all of this is happening, but I put it in the separate wheels here so we could see it easily. We'll get to the quad wheel where everything's together. But, okay, so these are her natal configurations. She's got a cardinal T-square with Saturn, her Earth and part of fortune right there, and her Sun and Mercury down here. The missing point is the Capricorn point right here, and she has a grand water trine with the ascendant and north node.
And the IC. And
The
the
MC.
Mercury.
The MC, yeah, Mercury he's out of sign. It should be in Scorpio, but he's within the tight orb. He's within 6 degrees. So Mercury is part of this grand water trine, although he's off kilter a little bit. But what she's got with her progressions is the IC is now here at this point within the right orb. Okay, it's conjunct Mercury, but now it is in Scorpio. So it's pinging her grand Earth trine, and at the same time, progressed Chiron and Jupiter have moved into that sun point. Not quite yet over here, because remember, this is 1 degree per year. But see, they haven't moved very far at all. Her natal Chiron is at 10 and her progressed Chiron is at 18. It just barely moved. The same with her natal Saturn. It was at 24, it went retrograde, and now it's just back at 23. So see the progressions for the outer planets, they move very, very slowly. But we can still see how, these weren't part of the natal configuration, but now they are, because they're conjunct her sun there as part of this T-square, just as her progressed IC is also part of that same thing. So she's got a lot of activity going on here in the 5th house. At the Libra point, well, 2 things going on. The Libra point for the T-square and the Scorpio point for the grand water trine. Okay, now let's look at the progressions.
The solar arc.
I'm sorry, yes, the solar arc directions. Here, what we see is her solar arc vertex is at that missing point.
I'm not sure people know what the vertex is.
It's a mathematical, actually it's where hard.
You would meet people?
It's the most faded part of your chart, and yeah, it's the sun over here's the east, the sun is rising in the east, and it's the west point, basically. They have other ways of describing it, but in a chart, it is the most faded. The ascendant is the one that our soul has the most control over, and the vertex is the one that it doesn't. It's the most faded of the points within our chart. Okay. And that point is now fulfilling the cardinal cross that she's got. So this has something to do with destiny and fate. And the timing, this 2007 timing, with this particular cardinal cross, the Sun-Earth axis. So it has to do with the personality. It also is the part of fortune there, which is the best harmony that's achieved between the ascendant sun and the moon. In other words, the overcoming of the personality for the work of the soul, and the harmony that can be achieved with the 3 of them working together is right there involved in this, as is Saturn, which, among other things, can be karmic. And when we're talking destiny and fate and karmic and the harmony of her personality and soul working together and overcoming the past, that puts a little different, it adds to the understanding of what's going on here with her configuration. Okay. Also, as she talked about, the moon is conjunct her midheaven here, and the IC is down here as part of this grand water trine. And what is the moon? It's emotions. We've got the south node here also. And what's the south node? That's a karmic liability thing that we bring in with us. So she's got, what does the moon control? It controls the nadir. It's the ruler of the nadir normally. So she's got all these past issues that can be favorably resolved, because remember, this is a favorable benefit that comes through right now, and it's water, so it's emotional. So this has to do with being able to corral and effectively learn the lesson of the moon and the emotions and the work that she's doing with the harmony of her big three and her earth and sun axis.
Mhm.
Okay.
Let's
Now
do it
let me put this. See, here's everything together. This is the transits that we've got in the outer wheel, and it's got those two smaller wheels that we showed. Here's her natal. Here's her the secondary progressions. Here's the solar arc progressions.
So we have the natal is always the inner wheel, the progressed is always the second wheel, and the solar arc is always the third wheel. The last wheel are the transits at the time. It's called the event. So what we have here, if you look at the bottom, you'll see that the transits were October 12th, 2007. So that became a solar return for me on my birthday in 2007. So if you look at your own charts that BL sent you, you will always see the left, right up here at the left will be your natal chart, the information for your natal chart. To the right will be the information letting you know that the middlemost wheel, right at the top there, is the secondary progressed, and the third wheel, does it say that here? The true, it says directed solar arc, but you know it's the middle outer wheel. You see, middle outer wheel is the solar arc directed. Now, what I don't know how easily it is for you guys to see that, but this was chosen. No, that's not the one I have chosen. Anyway, this brought in a lot of interesting configurations, and I love when BL speaks to the configurations, which she already did. You see, it brought the moon in, and it shows you with the transits, it brings more stuff in. So you can speak to that, BL.
Sure. Her transiting Mars is stimulating the Cancer point of her first cardinal T-square. That's right here, and that's this one here. See, transiting Mars is right there. Solar arc vertex is completing the second cardinal cross that we talked about a minute ago. It's there at that missing Capricorn point. And progressed Chiron and progressed Jupiter are hovering over the Libra point that we had, which again, this is all the stuff that we talked about when we looked at the separate wheels. Transiting Uranus is squaring his natal position. It's one of those, things in the Uranus cycle. Third quarter square. So let's find him in the chart. Transiting Uranus is here, and her natal Uranus is...
The natal Uranus should be over there, right there.
Should be down here somewhere.
Not natal. Natal is in the 12th house.
Oh, there it is, right there. Yeah. Okay, so this is part of this with transiting Jupiter in there.
See, that's actually very favorable, even though it is a cross, because with Jupiter there, all it does is stimulate more light, more intuition, more sparks of awakening within my mind. One can look at it that way.
Right. It's got the, more fire, more goal-oriented, taking the electricity of all this Uranus going on and effectively using it. Thor, Jupiter, effectively using that electricity there. And as we see here, it's creating this temporary mutable T-square with these transiting planets, but they bump up against her natal Uranus there. So.
I do want to mention that right around October, November of that year I had a major career shift. I had been running with two other partners a school of esotericism here in Toronto, and we had lots of political problems and for 7 years, and around that time I decided to cut it off and to quit, and I was on my own. So Uranus is all about sudden things, so I decided that's enough. And it was a very emotional time. My progressed moon was also in that 10th house of career, and with Jupiter there, it made it a lot of that. It was a very difficult time for me because I felt that I was nowhere. What am I going to do with myself? What kind of a career am I going to have? After all, I love to teach and I love the work, but my school is no longer my identity. It's no longer who I am, you see. So it affected also my my soul purpose, you see. Mars right there on my soul purpose. It's just like all that energy, I didn't know what to do with all of that. It was a difficult time, as you can see. So, yeah, just pointing all of that out for you.
And I also wanted to mention that you've briefly touched on it, but all 3 points of your grand trine are being stimulated here with the transiting Mars, the transiting moon. Of course, that's only going to be for a couple of hours, but it's right there on the solar arc nadir and pinging the solar arc moon. So you've got several key things going on with this grand water trine. At the same time, you have all of this Uranus stimulation and the Jupiter going on, and they're all hitting the Mars. They're all pinging various different points within your natal configuration.
Right. I'd like to go to the next chart. You have another quad chart for me there? Now, I suggested we look at this one. I could have chosen a week later, 2 weeks later, but primarily I was going through a very difficult time, and I wanted to show you the transits and how I look at how I approach this. A little bit different than looking just at configurations, which BL does so well. During this period of time, I had precancerous cells on my face that the dermatologist gave me a cream to use. Lo and behold, I did not do well with that cream. It affected my whole state of being, aside from making my face look like I was a burn victim with open raw sores that were bleeding. And I remember Christmas time, I was embarrassed to be seen by family and grandkids because I looked so hideous. But it affected my emotional state, my physical state. I had no energy. I was lethargic. I was depressed. And when I went to my dermatologist and I said, you have no idea how this is affecting me, and it's not just the way I look, because I know that too shall pass, I have no energy. And he says, well, I can send you to a therapist, to a psychologist. I said, what? There's nothing wrong with my head. I am a counselor. I don't need to go to anybody. I was ready to kill the man. But anyway, what I'm trying to show you here is how Pluto is at 5, it's transiting Pluto, 5 degrees here of Capricorn, and my ascendant, so it was right on my whole sense of being, my whole everything about me was disrupted. Pluto is about purging, and everything came to the fore. It was affecting even though the degree here is a little wide, it is still affecting my descendant, my south node. And don't forget, this was over a period of a few months. Even my moon, which you can expand the orb with that, my emotions. I was so depressed. I didn't care if I lived or died. That's how depressed I was. It was affecting that. Then you look at, down below, you look at Saturn. Saturn is affecting my solar arc Pluto. Again, Pluto is involved. That is affecting my progressed Chiron. So I had to make adjustments. I had to make changes. My whole well-being, so you're looking at physical. The moon is the mother of form, so it's physical, it's emotional, it is mental, with being in Libra here, so there's a whole mental component here. Saturn is about either this was karma or this was just a heavy burden on me, and it was affecting my soul purpose. I can even consider some of the minor things in the chart too, that it was affecting, you know, my Uranus. I mean, I can go on and on with little things, but I'm just trying to show you how at that time, and even if I had gone a week later or a week before, we would have had a similar setup. Even Vulcan, you know, is the pounding away at me. It's the same degree here as Pluto, and it was, you know, like there was no let up. No let up. It took 6 months for me to get out of this slump that I was in and then be able to lead a normal life. So I look at the transits and I see how they are affecting the progressions. The progressions themselves, the only thing I feel that are worth looking at is to see this. Where's the sun? Where's the moon? What houses are they in? And then, of course, as BL pointed out, what do they create in the chart in terms of pinging and creating configurations? But I look at the transits and to see how they are affecting everything in the chart. You see, that's like here you can almost see a straight line right up to my what is that, 17 here. 19 degrees was my sun. So my whole sense of well-being, my sun here, was affected by all of this because that Saturn touched this, touched off the Pluto, touched off the Chiron, and then touched my sun, my personality, my whole sense of self. So I just wanted to show you that because it was a really difficult time in my life. Okay, so I think that's it on that one. Thank you. And,
okay, did you want me to switch it to you so you could show your slides?
No, it's the same. It's the same as that, and that was much clearer than this. So I don't need it switched. That was okay. That was very good. So that's really all we want to pass on. This is basically the teachings, and if we go and we can summarize what we're trying to impart, is that everything has cycles. Everything is overlapping and interacting. They all have some influences, some at a greater time in our life than others. They bring about stimulation when they do ping something in our chart. Remember, cycles are rhythmic. They move in a rhythm. They all have their number of years that it takes to go around. So like BL has been pointing out, sometimes every, you know, when we are 29, 28, we get hit by the moon, we get hit by Saturn. When we are around 42, we get hit by Uranus, we get hit by another Saturn or something else. They overlap, and so certain times in our life are very difficult. 28, 29 years of age, we know, is such a difficult time for young people. They don't know what they're going to do yet with their future, but they have to make decisions because we have two overlapping progressions going on at the same time. 42, we all know, is when people have their midlife crisis. Again, it has to do with Uranus and the influence of it in our charts. So all of this has its rhythm, has its lifetime, it has its crisis that it sets up. We tend to not look at all the favorable stuff, unfortunately. We all want to know why things are difficult and how to deal with it, and to have a sense of why. It explains a lot of the whys. Why am I having such a difficult time now? Well, many times we look at the chart and some of the indications are there. If there are no indications and we're still having a difficult time, it's because soul is causing us to come to terms with certain things. So we can move on. Uh, well, I often consider that it's a good time to reflect, to look at our chart, to see what was it like, when my son had progressed to the next sign. Do I remember that part of my life? What was I doing? So it's a good time to reflect back to see what the life cycle was like and how are we handling all these progressions and transits. I just gave you an example of what a difficult time I had. I didn't handle that well. I was terrible to be with. I was unhappy. I was depressed. I had 6 months of sheer shit. Excuse me. This is taped. A difficult time. So I didn't handle that very well. Not in a very lighted way at all. Okay, so we do have these challenges. Okay, we move on. So we've covered quite a lot of points with all of you through the series here. Both our exoteric life, which is important to understand because we still live and move and have our being within this planet, and we are still part of our exterior life. So that's very important because it gains us experience. And then we look at our inner life, at our subjective life, and that too is very important. Many times the outer life impacts the inner life. So we have to become comfortable with the soul purpose, the ascendant, and our sun is our personality, because if we can work with our ascendant, if we can work with our soul purpose, we're going to be able to shine more as the sun self that we are. And, all these other things that we have talked about, how the moon is and how the rays impact upon us. Do they complement our hypothetical ray chart, or do they underscore and emphasize our existing ray chart? And many times certain rays, as they travel around, not rays, certain planets as they travel around, create a stronger ray influence. All of a sudden, when I have all this Sagittarian quality to me, as I tried to explain to you with my progressed sun in Sagittarius for 29 years and a lot of helpers there, I could see that when I was teaching, I was far more fiery, far more enthusiastic than I was when it was in Scorpio. So that sixth ray energy, which is not part of my makeup normally, impacted me as an individual. It's now become my mode of expression because I've been living it now for 29 years, right? So it's important to observe all these influences in our life and even those around us. So this is the time to ask questions. And how are we doing for time? And do we want to move on, Biel?
We've got about 13 minutes left if anybody has any questions. I don't see any so far other than the couple of little ones that I answered.
Biel, this is Joe. I'm going to ask a question.
Okay.
I've just been curious. I've noticed on the quad charts that even though the person may have moved, as in Eva's case, moved continents, the charts are still reflected at the birthplace. Is there any reason for that? And is there any value to, when it's a substantial move, to trying to adjust for geography?
You can try and adjust for geography. It isn't going to matter all that much. The reason that when you go in Solar Fire and when you do the dynamics in Solar Fire, it automatically defaults to the birth chart, because what we're doing is we're checking them against the natal chart. Okay, but in Solar Fire, when it does default to that, all you do is you say save these charts, and then you can go into the charts individually and you can relocate them. There is a whole discipline on relocation astrology, and certain places are better for you than others, but in the grand scheme of things, what it's going to do is it's going to change a couple of the planets by minutes. It isn't going to change them a lot.
The only time I have seen people really get a little hyper over location is during a solar return. A solar return is your birthday, right? It's your birthday. So many people want to take the snapshot of wherever you are at the time. And you know, the stupid thing about all of this, excuse me for putting in my little 2 cents worth, is so if you, let's say, live in Chicago and you do the solar return and you don't like certain things, well, people will then, let's say, take a trip to California and it's much more favorable and they'll take that as their solar return. I mean, it's so ridiculous how some people approach this, and they think that really this makes a big difference in their life. So solar returns are the only time I see people go nuts over where they're located and the effect that it's having on them.
Yeah, and even that's artificial because technically speaking, the solar return is not the date and time of your birth or even the place of your birth. It's the exact degree and minute and second of your birth, the sun returning to, whatever that exact degree and minute is. So it just depends on what you're looking for, and, different astrologers approach it differently. We have a question here from Marion. Go ahead, please, Marion.
Hi. Thanks for this. What I want to know is, with my birth chart, most of the planets are like scattered, but the progressions now are all below the horizon.
Okay, hold it. I can't understand you.
Like,
I'm sorry, Marion, you're breaking up. I can't understand you.
And Uranus all above.
What I'm hearing is that most of her planets are all under below the horizon.
Is that have some sort of okay?
So Marion, maybe it's better for you to type in your question and then we can address it that way, because you were breaking up so badly that all we got is below horizon or above horizon, and I'm not sure if we understood your question. Okay? You can type it in. There's a place there to send questions.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
I have a question. On the transits, you say there'll be charts, like we can look at the fourth wheel, the transit wheel, like, my transit, my Saturn is in Sagittarius, and I can look up what that's mean, and I can just go through those transits and look up what each of them mean when it's in that sign? Is that how you do it?
Yes, but you want to see what it's doing in your chart against your other wheels, right? So, and also that it's passing a particular house. So what is the effect going to be as it passes through that house? For example, I have is this mine? No, it's Yvonne's. Saturn is moving through your fourth house. So what effect does Saturn have upon your home, your family? So you would look at that.
Oh, okay, the house. Okay.
The house, and also then you want to see, is it pinging anything in particular for you? And what it does is it's pinging Venus. Venus is about your relationships or your values. So it's making you maybe reevaluate, re-examine what it is that you value. Again, it's in the house of home. So I would say home plays an important role here.
Okay, I have another really dumb question. This 30 years that each one is in, it's going counterclockwise, is that right?
It's going in.
When I look up at my rising sign and I see Jupiter, 10 degrees, does that mean it's moving towards my ascendant? Is it going counterclockwise, this fourth wheel? For all the wheels, are they going counterclockwise or what?
They're going
Well,
the normal way that the wheel goes. The first house, the second house, the third house, from Aries to, well, in your case, from Virgo to Libra to, so that's counterclockwise is the normal movement.
that's the movement for disciples. You know, this is the reversal of the wheel. And one of these days I will have a webinar and talk about the reversal of the wheel, because there is really great misunderstanding about that. But this is the direction that we as disciples move in. Okay. Ordinary humanity moves the other way, although nobody shows that. It's understood in consciousness.
Okay, my question was, somebody said, you know, my ascendant, Jupiter's going to cross my ascendant, so I'm trying to figure out, looking at that, how that's going to happen.
Where is Jupiter here?
It's in the first house, in the transits.
Jupiter has already crossed your ascendant. You see, your ascendant is zero.
August 15th.
Did it on August 15th?
This is her solar. This is her solar return. So this is September.
September. Yeah. So if we were to look at it now, Jupiter would be a lot further ahead, because, no, this is for the future. Sorry. This is the future. September 26, 2015. We are only in June right now. So it could be that it's going to cross your ascendant, because it could be, if we were to look it up to see exactly where Jupiter is now, it could be that it hasn't hit 0 degrees of Virgo yet.
Okay. I will get that book that you recommended, because I've been looking, trying to figure out transits and progressions and that, and in what books or resources. So I'll look it up. Thank you. I don't want to hold you up anymore.
Why, that's good for you. If you go back to the other chart, BL, please. We just have to for Yvonne.
Oh.
Sorry about that. So why that's good for you is for you to recognize that you have your sun, your progress sun, is at 16 degrees of Sagittarius, and it's in the 4th house. So Saturn moving through your 4th house is stimulating all of this stuff. It'll take a while. It takes about 2.5 years, right, for Saturn to move through a sign. Is that what you had earlier for us in one of the slides?
Yeah.
DL?
Yes.
Yeah. So it'll take 2.5 years as it moves through this whole 4th house, and it'll stimulate all that stuff that you've got there, you see? So this is an important thing for you to be aware of, that home, family, roots, all of that is important for you right now, because your sun has been in Sagittarius in the 4th house now for close to 16 years. See? What do I have here for you, Yvonne? Yes, note all the Sagittarius in the 4th house. This is what I had a note here for you. Yeah, that's an important piece for you.
Thank you.
Okay. See, if we look at where the moon is, the moon here is 19. So that's been 19 months, and here the other moon is for 4 months. You have had your progress moon in Capricorn. So when it shifted 4 months ago, were you aware of any kind of feeling changes and so on? Because Capricorn keeps emotions a little bit more hidden, a little bit more contained. You know, it's just a good thing to notice, because here it's in Cancer, which is also one that contains emotions. So have you found yourself a little bit containing your emotions more during this period of time? The last 19 months, 4 months. See what I mean? That contains emotions, even though it's very sensitive. This contains emotions. It still doesn't change your original moon, which is hard to see up there in Taurus. But at least here it shows that it contains your emotions. And there's greater sensitivity, which is good, because sensitivity, this is in the 11th house, greater sensitivity maybe to others, to the way others are and how they feel. Anyway, just some certain things to think about as we look at progressions and transits.
I mean, we just barely touch the surface. You can look at all kinds of things. You can literally go through one at a time and see how, you know, what the energy is and how it impacts a variety of things. Like transiting Uranus is right now at 19 degrees Aries. So any of these things here that are at 19 degrees anything are going to be making some kind of an aspect to Uranus. So, you know, you could literally spend forever just trying to find all the little nuances that are there. Is that productive? Not necessarily, but when you've got a major crisis going on, it could be.
Exactly. It's when we have a difficult time that we want to have greater understanding. And that's when all this plays itself out. That's when we really want to look at why. Why am I going through hell right now? Why am I having such a hard time? Well, many times our astrology will explain that for us. At least it'll give us an understanding of energies that are coming together.
Thank you. I'm not going through any crisis, but I'd love to be able to understand it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and you know, I had all that stuff going on with my squares and my crosses in 2004, but for me, it was more of an opportunity than anything. You know, it was some of the hard hitters, Pluto, it was Uranus, it was Saturn, but they were setting me up for all of these things that just happened, boom, 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 and they fell right in place. So, you know, there's more than one way to look at it, and like both Eva and I talked about, we had outer mundane events at the same time we had inner spiritual events that were happening with these things that we had going on in our transits and in our progressions.
See, like I said, in 2007, and when I left my school the following year, or maybe it was that year, I can't even remember, 2007, I showed up at the conference that I hadn't been to for 10 years, connected again with Michael, and we started working on the curriculum for the Moria Federation. So my whole career change happened around that time, you see, and we saw all that some of that stuff in the 10th house.
Okay, any other questions?
What year did the Moria Federation start? Did you start it?
You know, we worked in the background first, creating the curriculum, and then we started. So I'm not sure if we started 2008. It's not, or maybe later, maybe even later, because
it was 2009, I think.
Maybe 2009, yeah.
And I joined it in 2010, and you guys were already up and running then, so.
Yeah.
We both were set up to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much exactly what happened. And either we voluntarily went, like in my case, or we were pushed, like in Eva's case, but we ended up exactly where we were supposed to be. I definitely feel that. And what was that with Eva and her vertex and the most fated, you know, it was destiny.
Yeah. Well, which I'm very grateful for breaking up my school, because I probably never would be with all of you, and I probably would never have, you know, been part of the Moria Federation. So in that respect, it was a very good thing, and I'm very grateful for all that painful time that I had that led me to this. So anyway, before we end, I would encourage all of you, whoever is attending here, look to see where your sun is. Look to see what sign it's in and what degree, so you know for how many years you've already been in that sun. Then look at the moon. I made notes for all the charts. Some of you have quite a few things lined up. Some of you do not have anything. For example, Joe, you have absolutely nothing going on in your chart. Nothing. You're the only person I have nothing to say anything about. But I had lots of other stuff about some of you, as far as you know, needing to at least recognize where your sun is, where your moon is, and so on.
Well, maybe we have a few minutes to do that, but first Rachel had a question. So let's start with Rachel, and then we've got a couple of other people that we can just hit their charts one at a time.
Hi, fantastic presentation. The whole series has been really good, and thank you to both of you for that. I have a quick question about my progressed moon in the solar arc directed. How long does that moon sit there for?
Now remember, it's 1 degree a month, really. So it'll move along in Libra until it hits 30. So it'll be right around here somewhere, right? Because this is 26, so it'll be right around there, 30. And then it'll move into Scorpio.
Okay, but that's, I'm not sure if you meant your progressed one, which is at 20 Aries, or your solar arc one, which is at 7 Libra.
Because solar arc one.
Yeah, see, that's the 1 degree per year.
Yeah. So, so it's been there already 7 months, right?
7 years.
7 years.
7 years. Okay. This one is 7 months or 20 months.
Yeah, the progressed one is the one that moves the 1 month, and this one is the one that moves 1 year. So yeah, it's been there. I'd have to look at the actual wheel itself to find the minutes. It could be at the beginning of the minutes or it could be at the end of the minutes. But yeah, it's roughly been there. It's at the end of the life of the conjunction with Uranus and just moving into the conjunction, the progressed Uranus and just moving into the conjunction with your natal Uranus. So that influence there is going to be from about 5, which was 2 years ago, to just a little over 8, 9 at the outside. So that's like a 4-year window that this is influencing this area right here.
What I wanted to point out to you, Rachel, is to look at this 11th house. This is where your sun is sitting, both suns, and all that movement, all the planets that have moved into that 11th house. So they're there now. The 11th house is about whatever groups or organizations that you're part of and so on. But the interesting thing is that Uranus is going to be moving through that 11th house and its effect upon all of this. See, right now it's at 14 degrees of Aries, and your sun is at 16. So, I would kind of keep my eye open about Uranus affecting your progressed sun, if you know what I mean. Uranus brings with it things like an awakening, things that are different, things that are unexpected. It can be electrifying. It can be a jolt. It can be unexpected is the word I would use. Into your life.
Okay. How long would that sit there for?
Uranus moves very slowly. Very slowly. I'd have to look it up in Mars. Unless, DL, you know your calculations so much better than me.
Oh, heck no, but I have an ephemeris sitting right here on my desk.
No, I don't. So you see, it's at 14 degrees. It's halfway through the sign of Aries, and it'll be another, 3
Okay, Uranus, in July of 2015, it makes it to 20 Aries, but then it turns retrograde at 20, and it goes back. It hits 17 the end of October of 2015. It hits 16 pretty much in December, where it stations direct at 16. So it's going to station direct right there on your solar arc and progressed sun. And then it's going to move forward again. It's still at 17. It moves to 18 degrees, which is getting a little wide for hitting your solar arc. But that's in March of 2016. So pretty much this whole year it's going to be right there on your sun.
But it's going to be there for a few years on the moving through your 11th house.
Right, and then right after your sun, it's going to hit your progressed moon, and then it's going to hit your solar arc Venus. You know, so it's just going to run the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm. And then Saturn here, Saturn is moving through your. See, I look at the heavy hitters. Always look at the heavy hitters. You know that Pluto's moving through your house of relationships. What's that going to look like for the next couple of years? Saturn is moving through your house of work. What is that going to feel like for the next, 2 years almost? So these are the things I try to look at, the heavy hitters. So it would be from Saturn out. So Saturn, then you would go to Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. Those are the things because those are the ones that are hard to deal with. And because they stay in their sign for such a long time, they have an opportunity to really affect us. If it moves through fast, like Mars does, or like the Moon does, with the Moon every couple of hours, it's in 2.5 hours, it's in a different sign. It moves so quickly. Mars also moves quickly. Even Venus moves relatively quickly. So those are not the ones that I really look at. Jupiter also, Jupiter is more positive than anything else. It also moves relatively quickly, and it doesn't create hardship usually. So it's Saturn, from Saturn on, to see what house is it moving through. What house is this moving through? So you've got one moving through the 6th house, one moving through the 7th house. You've got something here like Neptune moving through your 10th house, and then Uranus moving through your 11th house. So even though it doesn't hit anything in particular, it doesn't have to hit. It goes through your environment, your field of whatever that you're living. That's the other thing.
And, you've got your natal Venus here at 7 Pisces, and that Neptune is right there.
It's a good time for visualization.
Yeah, it's hard to see some of that stuff in the quad wheel there in the natal chart, but you should hopefully know what your natal chart is. Okay, any other questions before we move on to do somebody else?
I know that Michael had an awful lot going on in his chart.
Yeah. Let's look at Michael's, okay? Hi, Michael.
Hi, how's everyone?
We're really good.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm doing fantastic. I just retired.
You're retired.
Oh, yes, wonderful, wonderful.
So yes. Let's see what's moving through the 10th house. Well, now this is not the right time. This is June 2nd. It's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is not a giveaway, but let's see.
Oh, these aren't his.
Oh.
That's for the exact moment that we picked, so they're really not that big for him, but he's got Uranus closing in on that missing point. As a matter of fact, Uranus is there at the missing point of his cardinal T-square.
Look at that. You have your sun. I always look at where the sun is. So for the last, I'd like to say 9 years, you've had your sun in Leo to really, your whole identity, your whole sense of self you've been working on, it may be in the home environment, but you really are shining here as the soul or the individual that you are. So I always look at that, and then solar arc Pluto is conjunct your progressed and natal Neptune, right there. So I always, kind of look at that too, because that creates almost like a line. Yeah, directly there, opposite your Uranus. Do you see that?
I see that.
Yeah. So.
Do you feel that?
Do I feel that? I am still working to figure it all out.
See, it's in your place of work. See, a sudden Uranus, sudden change to your place of work, your work environment. Remember,
I feel good about retiring.
Pardon me?
I feel good about retiring, so I
Good.
can focus on what's important.
That's exactly right. You can concentrate on the service aspect of it now,
Absolutely.
on your spiritual aspect of it, which, Neptune is the heart of the sun. If you're working at the higher levels of that, and your sun, your progressed sun, is there on your nadir, which is the ashram at the higher levels. So, yeah, those are really good aspects that you've got going on there.
But you see how we made something fit once we know, this is what we've said. Once you know what to look for, you can usually find it in the chart. So we looked at you quitting, retiring, your place of work. So Uranus does that. It just cuts things off very quickly, your place of work, which is 6th house.
You can think of Pluto as a destroyer, but destroying, if I consider Pluto as destroying my personality business, that's not a bad thing.
Or you're transforming, you're changing your relationship, Libra, to the work that you were doing, to any work.
So it's been marvelous.
Okay, good. Saturn is opposite your ascendant. You see, transiting Saturn opposite your ascendant. Again, you're getting to do your dharma. This is an obligation you are having to yourself to do your work.
And the transition is from personality work to soul work.
Right. And again, this is moving through your house of work, right? Your work. So you are moving. That work is changing. The dharma is changing from doing personality stuff here, and it's opposite your soul purpose.
Right.
Also squaring your Jupiter, your solar arc Jupiter, and your Mercury. It's also squaring your solar arc Jupiter and your Mercury. I got to find all this. How did I ever find this on my own? There, solar.
Right
Okay.
down there at the bottom of the chart.
There we go. So again, this is putting the mind, your mind here, a lot of mind, Jupiter conjunct your Mercury, and it's creating a T-square here with your Saturn and your ascendant. So again, karma, work, obligation, duty, and you're going to use your mind. You're going to be able to really get into it using your mind.
All pretty much generated around the time of my Saturn return.
Okay. Saturn return, which Saturn is, where's your natal Saturn? Here. So that was a little while ago.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
2 to 3 years ago.
Okay. So we see how, and I mean, I have more things pointed out here, but we don't have to go into every little thing. But just so that everyone can get a sense of how we're approaching this. I look at the outer planets and to see what houses are moving through and what's the impact on me, and how's it affecting other points or planets in the chart. Like Pluto is moving through your 8th house. It's a wonderful time for transformation. It's just a wonderful, and that's your destiny. Look, your destiny. You're going to be really transforming so that you can live up to your destiny. As an example.
Well, gee whiz, how cool is that?
Yeah.
All I have to do is take advantage of it.
Exactly. That's why I say there's just so many things we could look at. 9 degrees here. And again, Neptune opposite your solar arc of Venus. A good time for visualization. A good time for, more heart. So there's just great things going on. Okay.
It's a great time to be of service.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. Good way to put it.
Okay. Who else wants us to look at it very quickly?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else want us to go through it because there's too many charts?
Yeah, let's look at Linda's.
Okay, Linda. What have I got for you, Linda? Okay, so your progressed sun is a 23 Gemini. I always look at that first. See right there. Look at all the activity in the 9th house, the house of higher learning, Linda. This is a lot about higher learning, and it's in Gemini for the opportunity for you to really use the mind and get to understand the relationship of the polar opposites, of the opposing forces, which are what? Soul and personality, through the higher learning of the occult stuff that you're into, all this metaphysical stuff. So, your sun is pushing you to learn all this stuff, being involved in Moria Federation and all that kind of stuff, so that you can bring together the pairs of opposites.
And we've got your transiting Uranus opposite, well, it's closing in on the opposition with your solar arc. Pluto here. These are heavy hitters. You're right there at your ascendant and your natal Neptune. There is part of this cross you have. You have these two crosses that are real close to each other. The beginning degrees of the cardinal and then the ending degrees of cardinal. But so as Eva says, you've got some of these hard hitters here messing around with your ascendant line and also your midheaven. So it can be stressful times, it can be crises, but it's all part of the work of the soul growing.
Right. Or with Uranus, it could be insight. It could be breakthroughs, so you never know how it's going to affect you.
In your 6th house, it could involve your health. Electricity is one of the things that's related to Uranus. You've got double Pluto because you've got the solar arc at 19 and the transiting at 15. They're on your solar arc Mars. Of course, the transiting is going to move into that 17 degree and then the 18 degree and then the 19 degree as it pings all the various different parts of this cross.
Mm-hmm. And Pluto's about transformation, so it's an opportunity to really work on yourself, reinvent yourself,
Right, digging deep and dragging up the things that need to be transformed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you've got helper here. You've got in the 8th house, which is the house that Pluto normally rules. You've got transiting Venus there. You've got your own Venus there. A solar directed Venus. Venus will, is very good. It's a mind planet in a mind sign. So it's a great opportunity to use that mind, that keen mind of yours, because you've got all that air with Libra rising and Sun in Gemini, to make the transitions, the changes, the transformations that are so necessary through your occult teachings, through meditation, through learning, through study. And again, this is in the 3rd house. It's the house of learning. So learning is an important piece for you right now. Learning, and through the learning you will transform. You will transform through the learning. Pluto and Mars, both of them are rulers of this 8th house. You've got a helper here, which is the ruler of your progressed sun, to help you out. And where's your natal sun? It's in Aries. So of your progressed sun, it is the ruler, and so you'll be able to really transform yourself so that you can then relate yourself to yourself. So that you can bring together the pairs of opposites, bring together soul and personality, so that you have the excellent relationship with yourself. and then, of course, with others.
That makes perfect sense.
Good. Excellent.
Regarding what's happening, because my mind usually tries to analyze everything and stay on top of everything, and I'm in a transition, kind of a no man's land in a way, because there's so much happening that I've had to step back and get out of the way and let it happen. Mm-hmm. So it happens faster because it's really difficult.
There,
So this makes sense with the chart, that there's going to be that there are a lot of things that are coming together that aren't quite together yet, at least not consciously. Mm-hmm. So this is really interesting and insightful. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
You've got a lot going on, and all of this can be positive. You might have some hard knocks along the way, but the end result should bring about great changes within you.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's great. That's a good attitude. Wonderful.
Okay, Eva, we have 2 more students. Do we have time to do both of them?
If they don't mind hanging in there a little longer.
We've got Louise and Victor. So let's look at Louise, who should be the next. There we go. The next slide.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Louise.
Hi there.
Okay, what I have here for you to look at is the progress sun. Where's your progress sun here? Is the 24 Gemini, right? It's in the 8th house. Again, look at the themes here are being repeated again and again. It's the house of transformation. So wonderful time to have your progress sun sitting there. It's been there for 24 years already, so you've been really working on yourself. But look at that. I mean, look at that lineup. As BL is pointing it out to you, but it's pinging your Jupiter, which is, you can say it's your soul, it's your solar angel in a way. It's making a wonderful opportunities for you to transform, to really dig deep within yourself and make those changes, which you normally would do anyway with all that Scorpio ascendant. You see, Scorpio ascendant. This is just emphasizing the Scorpio house, right? Right? And you got Venus there transiting through it right now to help you out. The ruler of your progress sun. And what else did I write down here for you? Transiting solar arc moon in Scorpio. Where's the solar arc moon? Is in Scorpio. I'm trying to find it here. There it is. See, look at that. It's a 29-degree Scorpio. So if we haven't talked enough about that 8th house and that Scorpio quality, you've got your solar arc moon. This is its last year there, and then it's going to move to the next sign, which will be Sagittarius. So it'll be very inspiring. But this is a critical time right now. It's last year in Scorpio. All of this work that you've been doing for 24 years and this here is all going to help you with your soul purpose through the psychology, through everything that you're learning. And look at all the setup you have, even in the 9th house here. You know, lots of stuff going on in the 9th house, which is the house of higher learning. And you're creating your own group. You know, I know that you teach. I don't know, we can call them a family, a group, an ashram, whatever it is. You're already starting to do that. You're teaching. You're teaching your group. We see the Cancer, the Jupiter in Cancer. We see the Uranus here, the natal Uranus. All of this is being stimulated through the teaching that you are doing. Anything else there? That's worth, you've got this circled here, BL. What am I looking at here now?
What I have shown there is the first cardinal T-square with the
Yes.
solar arc ascendant descendant are at the Capricorn Cancer axis. So the solar arc descendant is now completing that cross, and he's
Okay.
going to be there for another 2 years before he moves out of influence. And with the second cardinal-ish T-square, because she had a couple of out of signs there, her progressed vertex is at the missing point in Cancer to complete that cross. And then he's going to slide over to complete the fixed cross portion of that cross as it progresses into Leo to square the ascendant descendant, because the points in that cardinal-ish cross, some of them are at the beginning of the fixed degrees, and others are at the end of the cardinal signs. So it kind of does a little double duty there.
Hmm. And like I said before, I would always look at where the heavy hitters are. So Saturn is moving through your second house, the second house of resources, values, and then it affects, of course, what you've got opposite it, right there as being pointed out. Then I go to Pluto. Pluto is moving through your third house, okay, transformation through learning, and it's, we talked a little bit about that. Then I look at Neptune. Neptune is moving through your fourth house, and does it do anything there? Offhand, I don't see that it does, but it's a fourth house, that it's moving through. It's almost going to be done, well, next year or so. And then we look at Uranus. Uranus moving through your health, the house of health, the house of work, the house of service, and that's where your sun is.
Yeah.
It hasn't hit your sun yet, but it will.
Yeah.
Oops, we got a lot of interference going on there, but yeah, trust me, it will.
BL?
You get an idea of how to approach that, right?
Yes. BL?
Yes?
When you were talking about the different cross and T-square and all that, what does it mean concretely?
Well, it means that you're working on finalizing some things in the cardinal signs. They're in the last degrees, and the cross is, again, you can either look at it as tug of wars between everything, or you can look at it as them working together in that cardinal mode, that initiating mode that's going to get things done. And then they're moving into the fixed aspect of it, which is the determination. That's that this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and nothing is going to stop me. And that's actually, the fixed determination is where the disciples get their strength to stay the course. So it's the beginning of the fixed signs for you there, but that's where your ascendant is, in that fixed Scorpio with, right, it's right here, 2 Scorpio. It's part of the cross. Your cross actually includes your midheaven at 10. It's kind of wide, but they allow wide for the ascendant. So it's the midheaven nadir axis right here with your ascendant, and then right before that is the cardinal cross with your sun and your earth, and your sun is conjunct your descendant there. So that's your personality axis and your soul purpose right there, together, hopefully coming together for the work of the soul.
Okay. May I ask another question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Vilken, how did you find out it's 19 degrees in Aries?
That's a guess.
That's a guess, huh?
Right. It's a guess. It's I put it there just to give you the feel of it. It's more than likely in Aries, but it could just as easily be in Taurus. It's going to be within 8 degrees of the sun. So it could be as much as 3.5 degrees of a Taurus. But Solar Fire has a couple of ways of computing it, and so I use one of their methods.
Okay.
But it's
because it squares, it's an exact square with Uranus, natal Uranus, where it's put. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I need to move on because I need to leave in about 5 minutes. So who else are we doing?
Victor is the last one.
Okay.
Let me get down
so,
to...
Let me see where Victor is on my pages.
There we go.
Oh, here.
Hi, Victor.
Hi, Victor.
How are you?
We're good. We're really good. This is a turn on, Just too bad I have to leave soon, and we've kept you guys already 2 hours. So, yeah. So I always, as I said, like to look at the progressed sun. Where's the progressed sun? It's at 25 degrees of Cancer. So here we are, 25 degrees of Cancer. It's in the 8th house. Again, the same theme. My gosh, everybody's into transformation. It's unbelievable. This is an occult house. Everybody's here to learn, to transform themselves through the esoteric teachings, through the occult work that we're doing. Lovely. You've been there for 25 years, at least in Cancer for 25 years, not necessarily in this house. But that's interesting, isn't it? That this is where we find ourselves. Everybody we've looked at so far has had this theme of being there. And this is as of May 8th. So nothing has really changed that much. It's just a few days since then.
That's 25 years is about how long I've been doing this work.
There you go. All right. Very good. So what I have here is transiting Pluto is squaring solar arc Pluto. Where are we? Yeah. Solar arc Pluto is up there. See? So Pluto up here. So Pluto is squared by Pluto. Again, what are we talking about? Transformation. It's emphasizing again the 8th house stuff that's going on with your sun there, right? And plus squaring progressed Saturn at 15 degrees of Cancer. Your progress Saturn is there. So it's squaring that as well. So you've got, I guess, is it a T-square? Therefore, no, it's a grand cross with the IC. So you've got really a grand cross. You've got this, you've got this, you got that. That's what I think this red in here shows. It's much easier if I look at this red, what BL has done.
Yeah, he has the Grand Cross natally, and every point is being, not every point, but 3 of the points are being stimulated right now. Yeah, because, transiting Uranus also just went past that, and chances are, remember when we looked it up for, I forget who, but it's going to go backwards.
Yeah, it's going to hover there.
So, yeah. So
yeah,
solar arc Pluto, transiting Pluto, transiting Uranus, give or take, and progressed Saturn. So.
And if that isn't enough to talk about the Pluto transformation, this is the progressed Moon is in Scorpio, and Jupiter is in Scorpio. So there's a lot of Scorpio esoteric stuff going on, psychology, esoteric, really wanting to understand all of that. So, I mean, can we see how many times it's being repeated here? And we have to look at that seriously when everything in the chart points to the same thing. So we have the progressed Sun sitting in the 8th house. We have Pluto being squared by Pluto. That's, again, speaking of transformation. We have your Moon in Scorpio, the progressed moon. We have solar arc Jupiter in Scorpio. We have Uranus creating the Grand Cross here, or almost, with all the things that we just talked about. And so that brings all of that back in again. Like, how much more do we need? A message here. This is the message.
And it's that repeated message from everybody. You know, the hits with Pluto, the hits with the 8th house, the hits with Scorpio.
Yeah.
So this is a time for all of us to have those major hits.
You know, I'm thinking of, you know, what the conference was all about. The conference was about that we are living the forerunner life before the changes that are supposed to come about in 2025. So we have 10 years in which to get our act together. And how else are we going to do that if we don't work on ourselves and our transformation? And in that, we act as, we do service, we act through example, through our way of being in the world, you know. So we're all at that stage of needing to really make major shifts and changes within ourselves to bring more soul into our life. You know, that's bottom line. That's what I'm seeing right across the board almost. I guess that's it.
Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you sticking with us for the whole series, and we hope you have enjoyed the series. So, with that, we're going to say goodbye for the last time. Let me unmute you all just so we can all say goodbye.
And if you have any questions about what we've covered, and if you want greater understanding, just jot it down into the union, what is it, the student union section, and it'll be addressed.
Oh, what about that? You said you were going to put something there on that book that you mentioned.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The slides that I'm gonna send to Brett, they have a minute. Let me see if I can find it really quick to pull it up here. I thought it was at the end of this, but it isn't. It's at the end of the one that I got ready for Brett to attach to all of this stuff.
So while she's looking for that, let me just tell you guys, I think you've done a super job as students of astrology. Astrology is not easy. It's a complicated science, as you all know by now. So for all of you to, especially the newbies, to recognize the glyphs, to recognize aspects, to recognize the psychology behind that, which you've all handled so well in your presentations, I really applaud you, and I'm very, very proud of you, if I can actually be personal about it. You've all done a super job.
We appreciate all of the effort that you and BL have put into these webinars because it's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you. We've thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm glad that it's ended up on a good note like this.
I think we had very good teachers, and thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank both you and BL and Eva for putting in the time and everything. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you. It's our joy, it's our service, and we love doing it. So
it shows.
and you guys were great students because you did interact. You know, we didn't give you a lot of opportunity to do that, but you did interact, and you know, as Eva said, you know, giving us the presentations that you did and doing that work and everything, that was great. So, okay, good night, everybody.
good night,
and thank you,
Night,
thank you, Eva.
Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye to all.
Blessings.